Joining in. So just wanted to say good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining in to tonight's talk. I know we've got some competing entertainment to deal with. We won't mention it because you've chose us, so we're happy that you've chose us over those other people. They'll be unnamed for the half hour. So just as most days, we'll just talk about kind of how this goes. So our presenter tonight is Amanda Carson. She's going to talk about mindful meditation. If you do have a question throughout or at the end, ideally, just use the chat box on the bottom of your screen. Please make sure that your mic is muted. But again, if you have your camera on, that's probably great for Amanda because as she's doing her mindful meditation, it'd probably be really good for her to see your face as she's going to talk through some different techniques, I'm going to assume. I won't
yeah, absolutely.
Steal your thunder or anything like that. So it's 7 o'clock. So what I'll do is I'll turn it over to her and I'll get her do a bit of an intro of what she does and kind of how the evening will go. And then I will rejoin the call, so to speak, in half an hour. So take it away, Amanda.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, well, welcome everybody. I can see a couple faces anyways, and if you are comfortable with turning on your camera, point, you can always just put that in the chat. And is that what you were going to add there, Rhea? Okay, she's signing off there. So yeah, if you do have any questions or if you can't hear me, just let me know in the chat and I will address those things as they come in. So yes, I am Amanda. Thanks for joining us this evening. We were just laughing about the Jets game being on this evening, and so we're happy that you're here with us taking in this workshop. So what I wanted to do this evening is speak about mindfulness and what mindfulness is, and how you can apply it in your daily life, whether that's through a formal practice of mindfulness, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or an informal practice of mindfulness. And we'll speak about that in some examples as well. And so what I wanted to do is just an opportunity for you to experience this as we begin is basically have a mindful moment. So as you are arriving here on this call, it can be helpful to take a moment to pause. And so oftentimes pausing or stopping what you're doing in any moment is a nice way to begin to check in and to gain that awareness of yourself in the situation that you're in. And so as you arrive here, you might even just check in with your body. So notice how you're feeling on a physical level. And just notice what it is that you notice. There's nothing that you have to do. You don't have to make any changes, any adjustments to anything, but really just notice. Notice what you're experiencing on a physical level. So you might be feeling some tension, some tightness somewhere. Or you might be feeling relaxed and comfortable. And you might notice in some areas of the body you're feeling more relaxed and comfortable. And then in other areas, again, there might be some of that tension or a feeling of restriction. Just noticing. And you can also just look around the room that you're in and notice the different things that you can see in the room. And you don't have to come up with a story about anything that you see, but just notice. So for example, as I'm sitting here, I have a lamp to my left. So I notice that there's a light. I notice that there's a lamp. And I'm just bringing that awareness to what I see. And then I'm coming back to you in this call. And you might notice what you can hear. So you're hearing me speak, but you might be hearing other noises in the room that you're in or outside of the room. You might be noticing smells in the air if you just finished dinner, if you're sitting with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Just noticing any scents, any smells. Even the sense of taste in the mouth, the temperature in the room that you're in, or where your body is resting. So if you're seated on a chair, a cushion, couch, bed, just noticing the surface beneath you. And again, you don't need to change anything or try and make anything happen. You're just noticing what's there. And so as you check in this way and you become more aware and more mindful of your surroundings, what does that feel like to do that? Do you feel more present? Maybe you're noticing things in the room that you haven't noticed in a while as you look around. And so this is an example of a moment of mindfulness where you arrive in the present and you just notice what is there. And so before we move any further, I'll just tell you a quick background about who I am and why I've come to really enjoy the practice of mindfulness and integrate it in my life. I guess I came to mindfulness through yoga. I teach yoga and I've been teaching since 2013. And I began to learn that through my yoga practice, I was developing this awareness and this mindfulness in my practice, but I was also then able to take it off of my yoga mat into the world. And for me personally, I experience a lot of reduction in stress when I'm more mindful. I'm oftentimes more kind and compassionate to myself because I'm not getting carried away in stories in my mind. And I began to become more interested in the practice of mindfulness. And so I've taken a few of the well-known programs out there. You might have heard of the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. It's an 8-week mindfulness program that was created by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's out of the States, and he is the founder of the Institute. Can't quite remember the specific name of the Institute, but he developed this mindfulness-based stress reduction practice where actually it was a hospital where clients who were ill and experiencing various chronic illnesses, pain, would take this 8-week program and learn various mindfulness techniques to manage their stress. And following the 8-week program, they were noticing a reduction in symptoms. They were noticing that their stress and anxiety had decreased, that their mood had actually lifted. And so following the learning and experiencing of these programs, I started to integrate more of this with the clients that I've been working with. So my background is in social work, and I work out of a private practice here in River Heights. And it's one of the tools and processes that I believe that any of us can benefit from and integrate in our life. So mindfulness can be used in a therapeutic sense. It can be used, like I mentioned earlier, in that more informal, on the go. And it can be used as a more formal practice, whether that's through meditation. And we'll go through a few of those things this evening. So mindfulness, this idea of this moment-to-moment awareness. And one element to that is that it's non-judgmental. So you aren't judging your experience, you're just noticing it as it is. Which, of course, it is a practice. As human beings, we have such a natural tendency to be subjective to our experience, and we come up with stories and we come up with reasons why something is happening, and what something means or says about us or about the world. And it's not that these are bad, but it's just that sometimes they can become unhelpful. And so mindfulness allows us to show up in the situation that we're in with that moment-to-moment awareness. in a way that is just accepting of what's happening now. And so mindfulness, as I mentioned, it's utilized in so many different aspects these days, from, like I mentioned, hospitals to schools to prisons, personal care homes, fitness centers, like the Reh-Fit and health centers. And, it's one of those practices that through the continuation of it and the repetition of it, it becomes more natural. So, I've heard people tell me, well, I can't be mindful. My mind is just running all the time. I can't sit down and focus on one thing without having a million thoughts. And of course not. I mean, we're humans and we're always going to have thoughts, and our mind will take us from here to there and everywhere. And that's fine. That's what being a human is. But through the mindfulness practice, you're able to notice when you've been distracted or when you've been pulled out of the present moment. And then through that mindful awareness, you can come back into the moment. And so we'll just talk about a few things that you can integrate in your day-to-day life that are simple things. I love this phrase that these things are simple, but they're not necessarily easy. So for example, when you first wake up in the morning and you get out of your bed, are you aware of the surroundings in your room? I think, a lot of us, we wake up, we maybe have that routine in the morning, we get up, we go to the washroom, we have some coffee, we get ready for the day, we brush up, and we're just kind of running on autopilot. So if we were to approach that in a more mindful way, really check in and just notice how we're feeling, we might wake up and even just ask that question, how am I feeling? What's going on around me? Okay, I can see the bed. I'm going to walk out of the room here. I can feel the floor on my feet as I walk. And it's really just breaking these things down, slowing it all down. So say you get into the washroom, you go to the washroom, you're washing your hands. Maybe something that we just do, right, without really paying attention to it. We're washing our hands, we're drying, and we're out of the washroom. If you wanted to use that as a mindfulness practice, what you could do is, as you have some soap on your hands, you're washing your hands, and you're really noticing the smell of the soap. And I don't know, as I say that, I don't know if that's something that maybe you already do, and that's wonderful. And if you're thinking, wow, I can't remember what my soap smells like. These are just examples, but these are things that bring us back into the moment. So say from there, you go to make yourself some breakfast and you sit down and, maybe your routine is to eat your breakfast, watch the news, which so many of us do, right? We eat our meals, we are doing something else at the same time. We're talking, we're reading, we're writing something down and trying to eat. So if you were to approach eating in a more mindful way, you might sit down with your food. You might really look at your food and notice the different colors on your plate and even the textures of the food. And as you eat the food, you really notice the taste. And as you chew the food, you really notice the sensation of chewing. And same with swallowing, you notice the sensation of swallowing. And then you do that again. So I think what I'm saying is this slowing down, right? And this awareness of each moment that we have, whether it's getting up in the morning and brushing our teeth, washing up, eating, making a coffee, having a cup of tea. We're not elsewhere while we're here. We're really here. And so what I wanted to do together are a couple of different practices so that you can get the idea of this. So one of the practices that I'd like to go through with you is called STOP. And it's an acronym, and it's a simple one, again, in the sense that basically what we're doing is we're stopping what we're doing. So say, for example, you're going about your day and you get into some kind of situation that's causing you some stress. And you know how you can maybe get tied up in that stress, your mind can start to go in all different places, or your body is starting to feel that stress, and you have a headache, you have shoulder tension, you have neck tension. So we're going to stop what we're doing. And then we're going to take a breath. So even right now, if you like, you can just notice the breath. And you can take a breath in through your nose. And you can take a breath out through your nose. So we're going to stop and we're going to take a breath. And then the O of stop is to observe. So similar to what we did when we started, we're going to look around the room and we're just going to observe. We're going to observe our setting and just notice what we notice, what's really going on right now. And then the P of stop is to proceed. So then we're going to move forward. So I'll say that again in case anybody missed any of those steps. But as you may know, these are recorded, and so you can come back to them at any time and watch again. But if you wanted to jot this down, if you have a pen and a paper, it's a nice tool that you can integrate into your day. So you're going to stop whatever it is you're doing. You're going to take a breath in through the nose, out through the nose. And then you're going to observe. And so you can observe the setting that you're in. You can also observe what's going on internally, right? So sometimes when we're stressed, we're holding tension up here. And we want to relax. We want to soften our muscles. We might observe emotion. We might observe that we're starting to get upset or frustrated. And we might even tell ourselves, oh, I can feel that there's frustration here. Okay, I'm just going to stop for a moment. And then we proceed. Then we move forward from that more mindful place. So that's a practice that you can integrate in your day. And it can be when you're feeling stressed. It can be when you just need to take a step back, you know, how maybe you've been busy in your day, or maybe you're just, you know, kind of being hard on yourself about something. The stop practice is a nice way to give yourself a bit of that space to take that step back and go, okay, I'm just going to pause here. I'm going to check in with myself. And then I'm going to move forward. And I always like to ask people as they're doing this to keep in mind, I mean, as you move forward, what's going to be more helpful to you in your day? You know, if you check in with yourself and you observe that you have a lot of tension in your body from holding stress, then maybe, you know, as you proceed and you move forward, something that could be helpful to you is to stretch a little bit, to, you know, move around in the body. If you observe that your house is, say, you just kind of haven't gotten to your chores lately, and you're looking around and you're going, oh, wow, okay, I'm noticing that, you know, some of these things are out of place and I have a lot to get done. Okay, I've observed that there's things here that I can get to. So what's one thing that I can do to start? And that might be, okay, I'm going to wash these dishes. And as I wash these dishes, that's just the one thing that I'm doing in this moment. And that's it. So there's a couple other practices that I'd like to do with you all that are, again, simple, not necessarily easy, but simple enough that you can begin to practice them right away. And so one is a breath awareness practice. And so as we went through that stop practice, we did just that. We paid attention to the breath, right? And we took that big inhale and that big exhale. And so with a breath awareness practice, you just simply notice that you're breathing. And I mean, it's one of those things that, again, it seems so easy and straightforward, but I don't know if maybe I can ask, is this something that you've done so far today? Have you checked in with the fact that you're breathing? And I mean, we all are all the time. But I don't know if it's common that maybe we do stop and just check in with that fact. But the breath is one of those anchors that is always in the present moment. The breath can't be anywhere but the present. So when we pay attention to the breath, that can bring us back into the moment. So you don't have to necessarily change anything about the breath. Just notice what it feels like. Notice the sensation of the breath in the nose. And anywhere else you feel the breath, maybe in the chest, in the belly. You might hear the sound of the breath. Or even notice the temperature change. So sometimes when we breathe in, the breath feels cooler than when we breathe out. And just notice what you notice with the breath. And so, as you continue to have this awareness of breath, you can ask yourself that question: is this something that I could see myself integrating into my day, stopping what I'm doing, checking in like this? What does it feel like to do that? Just to slow everything down for a moment and just be aware of your breathing. And then a similar practice, but different, is a body awareness practice. So some of these practices that we're exploring, the breath, the body, these can be done on the go in your day-to-day. So say you are headed out for a drive in the afternoon and you get in the car and you're feeling busy, or you're not feeling very great, or you're not, maybe you just feel scattered. As you get into the car, just come to your breath, even before you start your car. And just notice the breath. Feel the inhale, the exhale, that repetition. So that's an example of how this can be used informally. There are practices like this breath awareness practice, that can also be done formally, meaning that you would set aside a specific amount of time to just do what we just did, just this breath awareness. So you might set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and basically you're just going to sit and follow the breath. And now this is the thing, right? It's simple, it's so straightforward, but it's not easy in the sense that your mind will wander. So this is the mindfulness practice. You're sitting, you're noticing your breath, you're following it, feeling it. And then you start thinking about what happened last week and what's happening tomorrow and what's happening a year from now. And your mind goes in all directions, and that's not a problem. It's not a bad thing. Now, the flexing of the mindfulness muscle is to bring your awareness back to your breath, because that's your focal point for now. And even if you have to do that 100 times in 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. It's okay. You just come back. And now, similar with this body awareness practice, you can do this informally as just a quick kind of check-in, a scan of your body. So say, for example, you just got up from a nap and you're about to head back into your day, and you just check in with yourself, and you can start at the top of your head, and you can bring awareness to that spot at the top of the head. And then notice how you feel on the forehead and through the face and into the neck and the jaw and the shoulders, and Just notice the arms down into the hands. And you might just check in with your chest and down into your belly and through your abdomen. And then you can just kind of scan into your hips and your legs, all the way down to your ankles and your feet. And you're not changing anything. You're not trying to feel. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're just noticing what you feel, what's going on. So that's an example of how you can use this informally on the go. And so if you're asking, well, why would I want to do that? There's many different reasons. One might be just to become more in tune with your physical body. Notice what's going on more often so that you're hearing its messages and you're receiving its cues. And again, another is just to be more present, to come back. Now, if you were to do this as a more formal practice, again, you might set aside 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and really slowly just bring awareness to each part of the body. So we can do that now together for the next 5 minutes or so you get a sense of this. And I'll guide you. All you have to do is listen and follow along. And so if you like, you can close the eyes, but you don't have to. You can keep your eyes open. That's totally fine. And just begin to bring awareness to the top of your head. And just notice how it feels. And the awareness can move into your forehead, even the space between your eyes and around your eyes. Into your cheeks and your mouth, and the teeth and the tongue. And you might notice the sides of your head and the back. And you can bring awareness into your neck. Just notice what you feel in that area of the neck. And if your mind wanders off, it's totally fine. Just come back to the neck. Notice what you feel. And you can bring awareness into your shoulders, down through both of the arms, into the hands, the fingers. And awareness can move through the chest into your belly. And if there's any physical pain or tension, you don't have to try and push it away or make yourself feel better right now. Just notice it. Just notice that you're able to observe it. There is a bit of space between what you're noticing and your awareness. And then that awareness can move into your hips, the left, the right hip, through the pelvis, and down through each of the legs. Into your ankles and your feet, all of your toes. And then just become aware of your entire body, from the crown of your head to your toes. As best as you can, just accept what's there. Just notice what's there. And then let's end this by taking a few slow breaths. So we'll take a breath in through our nose. And then we can take a breath out through our nose or even through our mouth, if that feels good. And then we can breathe in through the nose. And we can breathe out through the nose or through the mouth. And then one more time, we'll breathe in. And then we'll breathe out through the nose or through the mouth. And so just check in with yourself following that practice and just notice how you feel, where your attention is, if it's on the body still, if it's somewhere else in this or in the space that you're in, or again in the future, in the past. Just notice. Now I'll just offer that reminder again that the act of mindfulness, to be mindful, isn't not to have thoughts or not to get distracted or not to be pulled out of the present moment. But it's to notice when that happens and then to come back into the present moment. And so a couple different ways that you can do that, as we just went through, are with the breath, with the awareness of the body, and then also the awareness of the surroundings that you're in. You can use all of the senses, what you can see, hear, taste, touch, smell. And I think that mindfulness allows for a richer experience of our moments. If we're paying attention, we're going to experience more. If we are able to step out of or off of autopilot and be more in the present moment as things are unfolding, we might catch things that we would have otherwise missed. And so I hope that this is something that you feel that you can integrate into your day-to-day. And you can't do this incorrectly. So if you ever feel like, I'm not doing this right, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, again, that's a perfect opportunity to practice the mindfulness of noticing when your thoughts are, well, what the thoughts are telling you, what's coming up, just noticing it. And then returning back to the present. And so I would like to have some time, and I know that the format is to have some time for questions and Q&A. There is the chat box there at the bottom if anybody had anything that they wanted to ask or even comment on or share. Maybe this is a topic that you are familiar with and you might have something really great to add that I didn't touch on. So please feel free to put anything that you like in the chat. Discussion is always great, especially with some of these topics, whether they're completely new to you or if you're a seasoned mindfulness practitioner.
Everybody's so calm, I don't want to interrupt. They're probably deep in mindfulness, so I didn't want to. I know I was definitely in a better place after going through that. So thanks for the talk. And I guess if people do have comments, we just maybe want to highlight that you are doing a mindfulness session with the Reh-Fit, I believe, on the 30th that you can register for. So we've changed the date, it's back a little bit, so registration will open soon for that. So if you enjoyed this Definitely, you want a little bit more with Amanda, that would be a really great opportunity for all of our members to participate in. One comment was thank you for the introduction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I echo that as well. It was really great. I think often, like you said, we kind of just go through autopilot. So it's great that we had to kind of stop and take that time to kind of refocus. So we'll give it a couple more minutes if people have questions or if you have anything more to add, Amanda, by all means.
Yeah, well, and I was just going to add that, I mean, mindfulness, it can definitely provide the responsive relaxation, but it can also provide sometimes the opposite of that. So, say, for example, if you are experiencing something challenging and you choose to be mindful and you choose to actually be in the experience, then that can heighten the experience that you have. And sometimes that can be, it can be hard and it can be challenging. I think it's natural, right, as human beings, that when we do find ourselves in difficult situations, we have ways to distract or to take our mind off things. And that's, again, it's not that that's wrong or that's bad. But sometimes what can tend to happen is if we aren't paying attention and actually, again, aware of what's going on for ourselves, then we may not be able to address it fully. And so I just wanted to add that, sometimes these mindfulness practices, they can be difficult in the sense that to be mindful with what isn't always easy. So that's why as we were going through some of the practices and some of the discussion earlier, that idea that these things are simple but not necessarily easy. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah, and I just see here that Jan has said, acknowledging that it's okay for our minds to wander. I always thought I was not good, right? And that's so common. I think that so many people, they have that same thought as you, Jan, where they say, my mind wanders. I have a busy mind. I can't focus. I can't do meditation. I can't be mindful because my mind goes a mile a minute. But that's how you begin. It's kind of like saying, oh geez, there's this really good metaphor where what is it now? It's something along the lines of, like, you would almost say, okay, well, I'm too dirty to have a shower or something like this, where it's like, okay, well, if my mind is too busy, I must not be good at meditation, or I can't do it. But that's exactly why you do it. Just like you would have the shower because you need to get clean. The practice of mindfulness is similar to that, in that because your mind is wandering and because you get distracted, you practice coming back to the moment. And so, I think that, yeah, having that awareness that it's normal, and that's what our mind, it does for us. We're lucky in some ways that our mind can wander and we can think about things from the past and remember, and we can plan and we can organize. But then at the same time, right, sometimes that wandering of the mind can just get so overwhelming or overpowering. And so I always like to use the example of building that muscle. So each time you bring your awareness back to the present, it's like you're flexing a muscle, or you're doing like a rep if you were lifting weights. I was going to mention too, I'm not sure if anybody is aware of this or not, but right now, excuse me, on Netflix, there's a new series that just came out, and it's called Headspace. So Headspace is an app. It's a meditation app. It's been around for a while. It's a paid app, so you pay a monthly fee. But right now on Netflix, they have a series, a Headspace series, and each episode explains a bit about mindfulness, a bit about different meditation practices, and then they actually guide you through a meditation. And it's done it's a cute series. It's almost animated in a way. So it's nice to even just to watch and see the way that they're using animation to portray meditation and mindfulness. So if anybody has Netflix, I mean, it's a nice way to continue what we did today. So yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I will be mindful of everybody's time as well as mindfulness. I just want to highlight that we've got a couple talks. I had some technical difficulties, so I apologize, but we have next week, Tuesday, is living an active lifestyle to prevent type 2 diabetes with Dr. John McGavick. And next Thursday is exercise anti-inflammatory with Dr. Stephen Cornish. So that information will also be on our website. So if you want more information to join those talks, and otherwise, have a very good weekend, everybody. And thanks for joining in, and continue to exercise and be mindful. So thanks a lot, Amanda. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.